Steve Dotto here. How the heck are you doing this fine day? And welcome to Gray Matters, the podcast for baby boomers and Gen Xers. Vivica von Rosen will be joining us in a few moments. She's having a great conversation today with Renelle Everett Darr. You are going to want to stick around for that. But before we get going, I'm in kind of decompression mode myself right now. We have just completed one of our Building Your Online Business boot camps. For those of you who don't know, twice a year, we host a boot camp which is designed to teach boomers and Gen Xers about what the world of online business looks like. And it's a precursor for getting people into our Gray Wave, our membership community. But it's really designed to help those of us over the age of 50 understand the potential of what it is we can do in the online business world and how we can take our experience and we can leverage it or reinvent ourselves to build and to grow an online business, providing lots more security for us, helping us balance out our income needs, helping us remain relevant. And I'm always humbled whenever we do one of these boot camps. This time through, we had about 2,000 people who attended the boot camp, which is a huge number. It staggers me how many people are interested in. But what staggers me even more or impresses me even more is the huge assortment, the huge variety of individuals who join us each time we do the boot camp, and just what a depth of knowledge, depth of experience they all have. Now, one of the first exercises we do each time we do the boot camp is we go through a personal inventory, and where we look at all the strengths and weaknesses that we have. Because a lot of us forget, we tend to be really hard on ourselves, don't we? We tend to be really, really hard on ourselves. So we go through this personal inventory of what we've done, going back as far back as we can to when we first started working. And we look at all of the experiences, all of the successes, all of the failures, all of the skills that we've developed, the types of projects we've worked on, and we create a bit of an inventory of that. And then when you take a step back and you look at that inventory, it makes us feel a lot more confident. A lot of us suffer from imposter syndrome, or we're a little bit concerned that maybe our best before date has passed and we still don't have a lot to offer in the business world. But that, of course, is not the case. We still have plenty to offer. And when you take a look at this roster that you have before you, you start to recognize exactly just how much you have to bring to the table. But one thing that we did this time, which we've never done before, is we incorporated AI into the training. We took that description, that really it's a resume of all of your experiences, and we put it through a prompt that I'd written for AI, which takes it and then looks at opportunities in online business and comes back with recommendations of things that people can do to possibly build and grow online businesses. And oh my gosh, what a revelation it was for so many. And the reason I'm sharing this with you today is we've all been impressed at different times with how AI is evolving and what AI is bringing to the table. But this is the first time where I really looked at using AI in an entirely different process, not doing something that I've always done before and helping me do it, but instead bringing some new capacity, some new capability to the table, and in finding something really useful for AI to apply in our own personal and business lives. It helps us write and it helps us organize, and there's lots of things we know AI is going to do. But this to me was a bit of a revelation, how it could just without any passion, just with a clear eye, look at the experience that any of us brings to the table, and then come back with, say, Steve, you'd be really good at this, you'd be good at this, you'd be good at this. And as I looked at each one of those things, we recognized I would be good at that. And yes, I have a lot of experience, and I like doing that. What a revelation. It's got me looking at AI slightly differently than I did before. Still terrified of what's coming. But we are, I think, increasingly going to start to see little places that AI can really be a benefit. And it's up to us to stay on top of the world of AI, to recognize where these opportunities come from and take advantage of them. That's me on the soapbox today. Just a little bit about the world of AI. What say we bring on Vivica and listen to her conversation with Renelle Everett Darr.
Welcome back, everybody. So today, Steve always tells me to speak into my mic. So today we have the magical and not in a woo-woo way. Like, she's really cool, and I think you're going to love her. We have the magical Renelle Everett Darr, who is a strategic advisor working at the, okay, I have to read this because I can't memorize it. A strategic advisor working at the intersection of strategy, culture, and leadership. And she partners with executives, founders, and organizations to navigate complexity, evolve systems, and lead meaningful transformations from the inside. So, okay, tell us, what do you mean by that?
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
That's a lot of words.
Yeah, it's words.
You know, what we're finding, and I'm guessing that many people can feel this, is that there's a amount of complexity in the world that just keeps getting greater. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of unknown, and that's been happening for quite a lot of time. Yeah. And then there's us as humans and our inner operating systems, and our inner operating systems. As adults, we can upgrade our inner operating systems as well. And I call it conscious leadership or vertical development. And that's the heart of the work that I do. And when we do, and we can talk more about that, but when we do that deeper work, when we evolve ourselves, then we're going to evolve the systems around us, and we can meet complexity so much more flexibly and expansively and openly. I don't think flexibly is a word, but and expansively and it is now, and openly than we can operating from what we call a more reactive mindset.
I love that. And I mean, no time like the present. I know my phone gets upgraded every 28 minutes, it feels like. So at the very least, we should be working on our internal operating systems on a daily basis, or at least on a weekly or monthly basis. So I love that analogy. And yeah, there's so much happening in the world right now. And I think any tools that you can share with us and any strategies that you have that we might be able to internalize, I think we're all ears.
Awesome. Well, can I read a quote for you? Because it's a timeless quote from Carl Jung.
Yeah.
And I think it just gets to like why this work. And then we can talk a little bit more about what that is.
Perfect.
But I love this quote that he has. Thoroughly unprepared, we take the step into the afternoon of life. Worse still, we take this step with the false presupposition that our truths and ideas will serve us hitherto. But we cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning. For what was great in the morning will be little at evening, and what in the morning was true will at evening have become a lie.
I love that. It's so funny. Like, I thought this whole idea of second acts and third acts came about with our friend Janine Vanderberg and Steve Dotto, of course, with the Gray Wave. But apparently Carl Jung was talking about it a long time ago.
Apparently so. And my sense would be that someone far before him was talking about this with different words, different quotes. I should actually take that as a to-do of like, how far back does this go? I think it actually is, to be honest, very much, from old wisdom. It's wisdom. And I think we have, for sure, I know this in my work, is that we've termed it vertical development in the Western science, and we've done research on it, and we've started to prove with Western scientific methods what ancient wisdom has always known, that humans can evolve and expand their consciousness, and we've been able to put data on it of why it's so important. And so and so that I think it's always been there, but we're shifting and evolving and bringing it into organizations as well, and not just big organizations, but all of our work, whatever we do, because we're leaders of ourselves, and whatever we're creating, it comes from within us. Yeah,
100%. I wonder though if I feel like, and this might be, this might be glorification, but I feel like in the olden days, we respected our elders. So the knowledge of the elders, they moved into their eldership knowing that they were moving into this space of being the wise one. And I think I can't put a date on it, but I think that's changed. And so it is interesting to me that Carl Jung was talking about that, because apparently that changed at such a point early enough that he was aware of it and talking about it. So yeah, obviously elder wisdom has been around for hundreds of thousands of years, but I wonder if the lack of respect for it is something a little sooner. That being said, now I'm done with my diatribe. So
Good point,
vertical
though.
wisdom, like, I explain that to me a little bit more.
Vertical development. So I don't love I don't love that term, because vertical makes it look like a ladder, and I would actually consider it more of like an expansiveness. And so we're here, and then if you're listening, I have my hands kind of close to my heart, and then I'm expanding my hands more and more as layers of expansiveness. So, but vertical, you can also think of it as vertical. And so I'll explain it. The best way that I work with it is a process called the leadership circle. And I'll just explain, it's based on all of the science around vertical development. And so basically we all come into the world what we call egotistical. And I say that because if you think about, I don't know if you remember when you were a baby, but if you've been around babies, it's all about our own needs. We cry when we're hungry, we cry when we're upset, and we don't have any reverence for we don't have any understanding of other people's needs. And then almost all adults develop, or not all adults, all humans develop beyond that, and there's a whole childhood development, and that's not. Yeah, I'll give you some statistics on that. And then we enter what we call the reactive state of mind, and also the socialized state of mind about when we leave adolescence, about when we leave the home. Most people do. And the socialized state of mind is, it's where we learn many of our gifts. Many of our gifts come from the socialized state of mind, but we really are looking at the world from the outside in, what our parents have taught us, what society has taught us, and what keeps us safe. And that is generally, where we're at. And then there's this other area that we call creative. It's also called the self-authored mind. And so we've got, and it's a little bit different, because we start to feel that tension between what has kept me safe and what brings me purpose. And it's a really different look at the world. And we start to realize that, wow, I have a lot of assumptions and beliefs that are limiting, that are driving the show based upon safety. And so and then sometimes I start to overuse my gifts in the reactive, and I can't get myself to that next place. And it's not easy work. It is really starts from looking at our narratives of the inside and really shifting our entire operating system. And so we know that about 70% of leaders, and I say that broadly, operate from the reactive, from that a socialized state of mind, and only about 30% are operating in the creative space. And it makes such a difference. And then there's even a space beyond that in vertical development, which is called integral, which is where I've gotten so clear on my purpose and inside out and outcome based that I'm serving something even bigger than myself. And it's a call that it's almost like people that are moving in integral is like, and you and I sometimes talk about this, that there's this call we have in the world to do something that's bigger than ourselves. And it's confusing, it's unknown, and I can't not say, yes, I have to do it. And then beyond that is unity. And many of us have associate that with a very spiritual place of we're all one. And we don't see a lot of people operating fully from unity, though we do. I think many of us have had some taste of, the oneness, not the sameness, but the oneness of everything around us. And so that's the expansiveness that we have the capability, at least we think, right? That what we think we know, there's so much we don't know, but this is what we do know that humans have the ability to expand in. And the more we expand, the more we can hold so much more. And so as the world gets more complex, we can meet it where it's at. And but it takes an embodied approach. It takes just a whole shift in our operating system. And so that's the work that I do with leaders. And when leaders make this shift, everything around them shifts. Their home life shifts, the systems around them shift, because who creates systems? People. Yeah.
How do you think, or how would this apply to the solopreneur, the entrepreneur? And first of all, let me say, I love that you're working with leaders on this, because when they shift, of course, their whole downline shifts. So I think your leadership work is so important and so key. And those of us who are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, may or may not consider ourselves leaders in our space. Like, this is still something we can work on for ourselves, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And I have been a mentor at Techstars, and I'm also an advisor at Bridge Entrepreneur Network. So working with, some earlier stage founders, and I do this work myself, and I have a, small boutique practice. And so if you think about what you're building as an entrepreneur, you are a leader of something. But so many people think of leadership as I manage other people.
Right.
That's one aspect of leadership. That's not fully what leadership is.
Yeah.
And leadership is about what we're bringing to ourselves and to the world. And so if you are stuck in limiting beliefs that say, either I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, or there's a lot of stories that
Right.
that we bring, that we hold on to, that we don't even know we're holding on to, actually, that limit us. And you've talked about this before. And so when you're holding on to that gets in your way. It limits you, and sometimes we do start to overuse our strengths. And so absolutely expanding our capacity to see things through a different lens by letting go of some of the things that have kept us safe but aren't going to get us where we're going.
Right.
I mean, that's the work. So that every entrepreneur, I believe, should be doing that work, because it's a big risk, and it's usually something that is really important to your soul of why you are starting an organization, whether there's one or hundreds of people. And it's what's going on within you that's going to really help what you're building.
Well, I feel like it keeps us relevant in the business world, because we can get into the grooves and the ruts and the same old, and then we're not growing. But more importantly, it keeps us relevant to ourselves so that we do continue to grow internally. Because I think a lot of people, as we get older, we use the term retire. Like, I want to be tired again. No, I don't. I mean, right? And this is, we might slow down a little bit, but let's not just give up the ghost. Let's really focus on continuing to grow, maybe even at a greater level, because some of the things that used to attach themselves to us and be important to us just aren't anymore.
Right. And I'll say, retire into what? I have worked with a lot of people that are close to retirement or could retire, and or just that are, say, 50, 60 years old, and there's still so much room for expansion. That's the reason I told you all of those different stages. Is until you're at unity and beyond, there is always these stages and expansiveness to go. And it's actually really fun to work with people that are at a quote unquote, retirement age, because they've seen so much, and there's so much to work with, and so much expansiveness to be had. And it's magical when they want to keep on growing and there's new contributions to themselves and to society that they didn't even know they were capable of.
Yeah. That's amazing. What are some practices that you utilize with your clients?
Well, I'll just start with, there's many, many things that we're doing, but what we're generally always working on is playing with the tension between safety and purpose. And it is unbelievable when you start to play with it, how much safety drives us, and how shifting into different ways of what purpose means within our bodies, and how long that takes. It's one thing to understand it. It's a whole nother thing to embody it. And so I generally start with most of my clients with the Leadership Circle profile, which is a development tool that's a 360 that actually you map yourself and others map where you're at.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that. We don't have to do. There's a self-assessment. I like to use the Enneagram for that as well, because the Enneagram gives us some real interesting areas into our of what our reactive is, what our growth potential is, and we need to get pretty clear on what our reactive tendencies are, because there aren't these limiting beliefs and all that until we start to look at those parts of ourselves. They're going to run the show.
Right.
And if we try to make them go away, they're going to run the show more, because they are here for a very good reason and they want attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're looking at that in service of our greater potential. And so probably one of the other early exercises I like to do with clients is something called the immunity to change map. And it was developed by professors at Harvard, Robert Keegan and Lisa Leahy. And we talk about, we have this 4-column thing. It seems so simple, but what we're doing is we're getting really clear on what is one thing, what is one goal that I have. But then we go under the covers, and we're like, well, what do I do and not do instead, is what our second column is. And we like telling ourselves, like, we say we have this goal, but here's what we're doing that's working against it. And then we go a little bit further and say, so what am I scared of? What would be really icky if all these things that I do and don't do instead? And we start to unearth what actually is driving the show. And we get by the 4th column, we have these, what we call the big assumptions.
Yeah.
And we suddenly understand that we have these goals and these shifts, and then we have all these assumptions. And so we've got our foot on the gas and our foot on the brake.
Right. And we're like this.
And we're going nowhere. And so once we unearth where our foot is on the brake, there's so much work, so much we can dance with and play with. And we start to look at all of that in a different way without judgment. And then we start to test the assumptions. And so that's one of the early things I love to do with clients, because I think I was just meeting with someone before we talked, and he said to me, he's like, when we first did this map, it was interesting. As we're more and more working through it in my day-to-day role as a leader, it is unbelievable how much I see that it is running the show, and how much like these big assumptions are happening, and that I never knew that that's why certain things would happen in certain ways.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's kind of that's the base of the work. You know, there are many tools and practices, and so it's a balance between structure and emergence, because that's what this work is. There's some structure and frameworks, and then there's also what's happening today? What do we really need to work on? What's really coming up? Yeah. And then we dance with that. And so we're not always just dancing in emergence. Right. We're also, we're have some structure, and that's how it works. Whether I'm working with people one-on-one or we're doing cohorts, we still have the framework and also the ability to dance, because that's how we shift. Yeah. Is to really look at ourselves, and then when we return to different things, and then we look at purpose and safety in different ways, and slowly over time we start to shift what we call above the line, where we're letting go of some of that safety and trusting some more of the purpose. But we're not giving it up. We will always need safety in this world.
Because we're human, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So paint a picture a little bit. I mean, you can use John Doe. You don't have to, unless you have permission. Like, paint a picture of what a leader, kind of their position, where they were, what their frustrations were, how you work together with this person, and basically the end results. Can you kind of paint a picture what that would look like?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you an example.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, because our goal is always expansiveness. Our goal is always growth, expansiveness, etc. Probably one of my favorite examples was I was hired to coach a chief technology officer of like a digital healthcare
Mhm.
company. And I was told, and this I don't always get hired by HR. This particular, a lot of times leaders themselves reach out,
Mhm.
but in this case, it was through the HR, and they were just like, yeah, well, we want to give him some help on communication. Like, there's just really some communication issues, and we're like, okay. So we started to delve into it, and what we realized is, there was people that were feeling like he didn't care, and that he was too intense, and so that was really getting in the way of his communication.
Yeah.
And what it really ended up being was he was almost that's where he got his value, is that how hard he worked and how hard he pushed was what he learned, and was what he learned was what made him successful. And he didn't even understand that that was getting in the way of how others viewed him, because he really cared about people, and people didn't think he cared about them because he had this protective piece up of working so hard and pushing so hard.
Yeah.
And when we started to see that that's what was happening, then we started to work with that, and his communication increased. We did not really work on, or improved. We did not really work on communication per se once. That was an external behavior. We worked on the internal piece. And I remember I got a call from him 6 months after we were working together. And then he had gotten the promotion to chief technology officer.
Oh, good.
He was the vice president of technology before that. And I was like, great. Like, I don't know if I asked, I didn't say, why did you get promoted? But like, tell me more about it. And it was like, they said that my communication and the way I showed up had changed so much, and that changed everything. Right. And so, and there are lots of different external behavior things you can teach people on communication. We didn't even need to work on any of that. We just had to work on the inner game.
On the inner game. Exactly. I love that. Yeah. How many of us are, working from the outside in, right? We're working on peccadillos that we have. And it's just hard to polish this big circle of issues that we have. Whereas if we can go really from the inside out, we can make a change that has long lasting and systematic effects within ourselves and within our companies too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And can we trust that is the way to transformation, when so many of us believe we've been shown it's the outer is what shifts everything, when in reality it is the inner. It just takes some slowing down to really see it.
Yeah, it's funny. I just keep getting this visual, so I'll share it. But I can continue to wipe the dog nose snot off my windows, or I can teach Cal to be more comfortable and secure within himself, so that he doesn't feel like he has to eat every animal through the window. And spread
that requires the dog whisperer coach, right?
Exactly. If I were a dog and those rabbits outside were my triggers, yeah, that's probably not the best metaphor ever, but that was the one I kept seeing in my head. So
you bring up another thing, is it's those patterns and archetypes that we start to see. Like, everything is in patterns, and if we start to see the world in patterns, that's the other thing this work does, is help us to look at archetypes and parts and patterns.
I love that.
And then something like that you talk about, it actually, it does make, why would that come up? Why is that? Why am I seeing that pattern when I'm talking about internal development? There's a reason, right? Because there's patterns all around us.
Yeah, I remember being in college, and I just loved Carl Jung and the whole practice around archetypes. And then it started to feel a little bit limited. So this whole idea of vertical development, I feel like it's the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And how it does relate to those archetypes is that there's a kind of a dark and a light in all parts of us, and there's and in everything around us, and so nothing is bad. So many people, when we start working on reactive, are like, oh, these reactive tendencies of mine are bad. No, they're not bad. They're not bad. They can be limiting, but they also hold all of your gifts.
Exactly.
They hold both, and it's the both and that we learn to hold that makes such a big difference. And that's creative living, creative leadership, self-authored life, is I can hold both things.
Yeah, that's interesting. A friend of mine is writing a book right now called And it's that, right? I find it so fascinating that we all seem to be, and by all, I mean everyone that we are energetically connected to. I would consider myself, Jen, and energetically connected to you. Like, we all seem to be working on the same things right now. But you know me and my hollow tube, but it's coming through the
Right.
filters of our own experiences. So it sounds different and it attracts exactly the right audiences to us, but it's really the same wisdom that's coming through. I'm getting chills right now because it's coming through, I feel like, everyone that I know right now, which is really, really exciting.
That is. Well, I remember we talked about with these stages, and I talked about unity.
Yeah.
So I mean, these are universal truths,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And it's like we're returning to them. Like we some parts of me, like we think we're developing into them. Perhaps what we're really doing is returning to
Cycling
them.
back into. Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me one thing you're passionate or excited about right now.
Just one. I'm an Enneagram 7 also. Did I really have to
tell me
say
the
just
top
one?
3 things
No,
you're
I'm just kidding.
passionate.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You know, gosh, that is a great question. I am really passionate about this work that we're talking about here becoming so much more accepted. Things I could not say in the workplace even 5 years ago.
Right.
I can say those now, and gosh, we spend so much time working, whether we're solopreneurs or in a workplace, and we need to be able to be having these conversations. And I'm working with, high level leaders that are like young executives, and they're coming to me directly, taking on this work because they want the development, and that is so exciting to me.
That's
so incredibly exciting
to me and super exciting. And it's so needed, right?
It's so needed. And then a personal thing is my oldest child is going to high school this year, and you'd think I wouldn't be excited about it, but I'm pretty excited. It's really cool, this new phase.
Because they're like really people now.
It's just like, I mean, there are some days, talk about reactive creative, some days it's like, don't even talk to me, roll your eyes. But other days, she's like, we're sitting cross-legged, just talking about life and just being able to share things. And it's really cool.
Yeah, I remember, I think I was probably 16, 16, when I started liking my parents again and having a more, not a friendship, but a more mature relationship with them. So I'm excited for you.
That's young. That's great. What lucky parents. I've heard it's like 20.
Well, so, I think, again, cycles.
When they come back to you.
I think it was 16, and then I got rebellious, and then I came back at like 21, and then I moved away, and then I came back at like 29. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's right. There's those cycles again. Yep.
That's awesome. Okay. Who do you work with? Where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I do work with founders. I work with executives at all levels. And I mostly work when I'm working in organizations, 5 million and above, but I also work with social enterprises, so nonprofits and others. So I just think there's so much need and there's so much complexity there. And I do cohorts and strategy as well as one-on-one executive coaching. There's a lot of different ways in, as well as just coming to speak and get people starting on this path. Yeah. And you can find me at insight-cc.com and on LinkedIn. Yep. Definitely look me up on LinkedIn. I'd love to engage with you.
We will get those links into the show notes. If you're on YouTube, you'll see those below. If you're not on YouTube, go to our YouTube and you'll see them in show notes below. Thank you so much, Renelle. It's always a gift getting to spend some time with you. And for those of you, when you ever get to meet Renelle face to face, like, she's got these freaking magic eyeballs, and it is like she is peering into your soul, and it's disconcerting, but also awesome. So I would just recommend, if you ever get to meet Renelle face to face, you definitely want to do that too.
Some things are just beyond words, right?
Exactly.
That's part of the magic of like, yeah, we've got frameworks, and then we've got frequency,
Yes.
and that works. It's important.